Emma and Dean are high school students who participate in a school trip to Trinidad. However, they become separated from the rest of the group and are left alone on a deserted island with only each other for company. As their feelings get in the way of working together, they have a better chance of survival if they work together. Emma, a conscientious and well-prepared student, woke up one morning and get up and ready for school early. Before leaving, she makes sure to double-check her calendar for any planned productive endeavors. Meanwhile, Dean, an introverted and unruly adolescent, gets out of bed, visits the toilet and then settles in for a session of video gaming. Jack, his father, is admonishing him for being tardy. When their mother, Barbara, drops them off at school, Emma and her sister, Stacy, get ready to exit the car. After her older sister leaves, Stacy says, with envy, that she is the least loved of the sisters. While walking down the hall with her best friend Lizzie, Emma is greeted by superstar quarterback Stephen Sullivan. Lizzie is overjoyed by the young man's kindness and makes fun of her teacher, Mr. Christensen. The next day, their teacher says they'll be picked up promptly at school and taken to Trinidad Sanctuary. As Dean accidentally bumps into Emma while calling her prom queen, the teacher is interrupted. In the meantime, Christensen will elaborate on why this trip is so crucial. In telling Emma that Dean probably got on the trip thanks to his father's money, Lizzie gives Dean a silly look before turning back to him. Then Christensen reveals that the group will spend the remaining 3 days of their trip learning about the island's culture, and everyone's enthusiasm levels skyrocket. At lunch, Lizzie tells her pals about the morning she spent with Emma and Stephen. During their week together in Trinidad, she insists the two of them must grow closer. The responsible student, however, reminds Lizzie that they need to pay attention to the trip rather than the funfair in Trinidad. When Lizzie sees Dean slicing an apple with his knife, she gets irritated. Helen, a mutual friend, says she and Dean went to high school together and that despite Lizzie's disapproval, Dean is a good person. While Jude initially disagrees with Helen, he eventually comes around after the teacher Miss Collier arrives and takes Dean's knife. Dean isn't paying attention as she quietly takes him to the principal's office. Since a famous quarterback is interested in Emma, Lizzie tells her friends that she thinks their friend should stop dating boys like Dean. Early the next morning, Emma expresses her gratitude to her parents, Emma's mom and dad Phil, for granting her permission to go on the trip. In the meantime, Jack reminds Dean of his efforts to secure a spot for his son on the excursion. Although he has been having some difficulties at school recently, this young man disagrees. Nonetheless, he makes up his mind to leave. When it's time to get on the school bus, Christensen gives the order. While Dean overhears his father's exact words, Barbara reassures Emma that she will be fine. Before he boards, Stephen makes sure to check in with Emma and see how she's doing. Emma is uninterested in Lizzie's teasing. The students don't show up for a few hours. A Trinidad collier informs the group that the official start of the program will take place the following day, so they can relax and have fun for a while before meeting for dinner. A short time later, Emma and her pals are having a blast at the pool when they run into Stephen. Emma sees Dean standing on a balcony, staring at her. As Dean turns away from what he sees, Stephen reaches out and grabs Emma around the waist. The next day, the students begin working on their project to help construct a school for the underprivileged children of Trinidad. Dean pulls a stunt that has Stephen muttering to Emma about how annoying Dean is. The trip is doomed because of the dean. Later that night, Jude tells her friends that she and Stephen have been invited to a funfair party aboard a nearby boat. Emma hangs up on her parents unexpectedly, telling them a lie about Miss Collier turning off the lights. The mature student is hesitant at first, but her peers pressure her to come along. When the girls finally show up to the party, they hop aboard the boat with glee. Emma starts looking for Helen at the party, but is shocked and upset to find Stephen making out with another woman. She simply walks away from it. While Emma walks past Dean, he inquires as to whether or not she and Stephen are dating. Annoyed. As for Emma, she tells him that it is none of his business. When the police arrive and tell everyone to move to the front of the boat, Emma falls in by accident. However, nobody takes any notice of her besides Dean. After hearing Emma's distress signal, Dean immediately enters the water, and the two of them swim towards a nearby dinghy. Dean decides he'd rather not get himself into any further trouble, so he cuts the rope that ties the dinghy to the boats. He assures Emma that they will be fine and can follow the ship later, but she insists on returning to the boat. However, a massive storm is on its way to them. After realizing that the dinghy has no motor, Dean and Emma have a difficult time keeping up with the boat. They are holding on to the dinghy for dear life as a massive wave crashes towards them. The party the night before led to the trip being cancelled the following morning at the hotel. Collier finds out from Lizzie that Emma didn't return home the night before because Lizzie thought she was with someone else. After Lizzie argues that Emma isn't the type to ditch class, the teacher clarifies if this is true. She continues by saying that the last time she saw her best friend was on the boat. While this was going on, Emma and Dean were carried by the wind to the Caribbean Sea on their dinghy. Dean looks at his phone, but it got soaked in the bathroom. If Emma doesn't want to use his phone, he suggests she use her own, but she can't get a signal in the hotel. Dean isn't there when Christensen takes roll because he's out in the middle of the ocean. It's Dean Amidal. How? They ought to have gone where the boat was going. He raises a logical objection. They start bickering over the fact that they can only share one paddle. In the midst of their discussion, she notices an island. In order to get there, Dean paddles straight for it. Christensen and the police question Emma's friends at the hotel. Collier wants to know if the two students can be located, but the police say it's more likely that they'll return home. Emma is not an adventurous person, and this causes Lizzie concern. Dean and Emma paddled their hearts out to reach the island. Emma checks the signal strength on their phone but still has no luck. Then Dean keeps a flare gun he finds on the dinghy. Jack learns that his son has vanished at the same time. He drops everything and rushes to the school to find Barbara. Simultaneously, Phil rushes onto campus. Concerned, the parents approach the principal, only to be let down by his lack of solutions. Meanwhile, Emma and Dean search the island for a place to set up camp. A blue lagoon awaits them as they venture further into the forest. Dean thinks this is awesome and has the girl take his picture. Unfortunately, she declines. She's afraid that getting into more trouble will hurt her chances of getting into the school of her dreams. However, Dean thinks that her explanation is weak. A few hours later, they arrive at the island's rim. When they reach a dead end and find no one to help them, the girl and her companion decide to go back the way they came. The two go exploring, and Dean discovers a cave, using Emma's phone as a torch. There are a lot of wagers leaving the establishment. They escape and end up getting wet in a nearby lagoon. As soon as they reach the coast again. Unfortunately, they lost their dinghy and only managed to beach one life jacket. They try to get home no matter what, so they go all the way around the island looking for the dinghy. Dean and Emma are resting as the sun goes down. Dean is too preoccupied with the scenery to hear the girl when she tells him to fire the flare twice to signal for help. Dean avoids answering her question about his preoccupation by shifting the subject. The young woman has an abrupt recollection of the snacks she had packed. She finds it and proudly offers Dean some food. As they wait for their flights, their parents quietly search the airport for their children. On the beach side, the two young people set up camp. When Emma asks Dean why he refers to her as the prom queen, he says it's because she represents the ideal female in a perfect society. Dean reassures her that everything will be okay after she hears a twig snap. When Emma checks her phone for reception, she is disappointed to find that she has none. Her friend senses that she is chilly and, in a soothing tone, offers her a shirt. Emma promises that her relatives will come to their aid. The next morning, after hearing a faint rustling, Dean comes across Emma on the beach, where she has written SOS on a piece of driftwood. When he tries to call her, he discovers that the battery is dead. Dean then goes swimming while Emma can't take her eyes off of him. At the hotel, Christensen tells the parents of the missing teens that the police have started searching and have located their missing dinghy on the boat. Jack offers to pay for a speedier search. Christensen expresses regret, but Barbara is adamant that they assist in the search for the children. Stacy calls her parents a short while later, demanding information about her missing sibling. Phil tells her in an unhappy tone that they haven't been able to locate her on the island. Emma goes to the river for a drink of water and notices some odd sounds.